So this is part two, and we're going to start off with an unstructured interview. So unstructured interviews will progress based primarily upon the initial response of the interviewee. So the interviewer may have a starting question, however, further questions are dependent on the previous response of the participant. Advantages are it's quite informal, so people feel more comfortable and open up more and tell their honest thoughts and feelings on the subject. They're more likely to say their true opinion, so this increases the validity, and as there are more follow-up questions, it means that the researcher can get clarity on the participant's answer, making sure they understand and they can't really misinterpret what they've said. It flows well as it is more like a conversation, and responses trigger the next questions, as questions are dependent on the response. Some disadvantages, though, are that due to the fact that the questions aren't set, and that the responses are primarily based on the response, the data collection is very hard to compare as the responses are so varied. As it's like a conversation, there's no specific end point, so it can last up to a really long time. Following up on this point, the research may take long periods of time, and they cannot interview as many people, so there is a smaller sample size. So now going on to a focus group. A focus group involves an organised discussion with a selective amount of people in a group. So individuals say their views on certain thoughts, feelings on the subject. So data can be collected and analysed. The focus group tends to be semi-structured, as individuals scope from point of view to point of view, gaining multiple perspectives on the same subject at once. So as you can see, a general opinion, people come to consensus, showing a shared point of view. If someone says something, it may trigger an idea, and this is good as it means they can get their opinion across. This is like interviewing people en masse, and therefore it can be a quicker process. However, people may agree to others just because they don't want to be disliked and seen as abnormal. For example, if someone has said how much exercise they do a week, a person may say they do more than they actually do because they don't want to be embarrassed if they don't do enough exercise. If this does occur, it decreases the validity, and if one or a few certain people take charge, then others may not have a chance to speak, and therefore not everyone's opinions are shared. So now we're going on to an observation, and an observation is when behaviours are watched and recorded, usually with no manipulation of a variable. So an advantage of this kind of research type is that due to the fact an observation is done in a real life setting, it means that results can be applied to the real world, because they don't have the same controls and it's not as artificial as a lab experiment. To read the situation properly, the person's body language can be looked at and evaluated as well. However, disadvantages are extraneous variables cannot be controlled in some types of observations. Participants may know their observer is watching and act differently. This is known as the Hawthorne effect. So now we're going on to the different types of observations. We have covert and overt. Starting off with covert. Covert observation is when the participants are left in the dark and they don't know that they are being observed. So an advantage is that the Hawthorne effect is avoided. Normal natural behaviour is seen, and so you can apply this to real life. And it increases the validity. So disadvantages, because they don't know that they are being observed. This is deception, and they don't have the right, they can't withdraw because they don't know they're being observed. And if they're quite far away from the action because they're having to hide because people don't know they're watching, they could miss things. It's an overt observation. This is when the participants are being told that they are being observed and they're being told what the aims are. So an advantage is there's no ethical issue because they're not deceiving the participant, and they can be closer to the action, means that they're not missing things. And the disadvantage is if people know they're being watched, they could guess the aims of the study, therefore they could change their behaviour to suit what the researcher wants to find. The Hawthorne effect also could be seen within this.